cups of the rose in my old phone.
Feeling a bit sad. Actually, I lied. I'm devastated. Rayan Cherki to Manchester City. Here we go. This feels like my doomsday. And I mean, football is such a cruel sport sometimes. Honestly, it's a beautiful sport at times too. The emotions, the happiness that you can get from it. But it's also a cruel sport. It's also unforgiving at times. Ladies and gentlemen, for the last 4 years, I've been tweeting about Rayan Cherki, trying to put the world on notice. Telling people he's coming, putting him in conversations with the great wonder kids of the next generation. Like, bro, this isn't a gimmick. This isn't me just pretending to rate a player like, oh, I just found out who, like, this is my guy. I feel like I've been talking about this guy for so long, hyping him for so long, trying to convince people for so long. I literally went and watched this guy live in the flesh this past season and described it as one of the best footballing performances I've ever seen with my 2 eyes in person. All of that for him to join my next door rivals. It's a dark day for me, man. It's a dark, dark day for me. Rayan Cherki to Manchester City. Here we go. I really don't want to make this video. I really don't, because this is breaking my heart. Seriously, it's breaking my heart. But look, I have to speak on it. Manchester City have confirmed, or I guess Fabrizio Romano today has confirmed, that Manchester City, Lyon, and Cherki have all come to an agreement for Rayan Cherki to join Manchester City for this upcoming Club World Cup, and then obviously the next few years on a 35 million euro package. I think they're paying 30 million euros up front. And I have such a wave of emotions right now. I'm thinking so many different things, but I mean, let's start with Rayan Cherki. As I've just said, and as you guys who watch my content know, I'm a massive, massive fan of Rayan Cherki. Like, bro, I've talked about this guy so many times. I've sang his praises so many times. But more than anything, I feel like I've defended him for so many times. Because throughout the last few years, as Cherki's name has grown and grown, and people have heard about him and watched him, and I feel like more often than not, all the talk revolves around Rayan Cherki's personality and his character and his mentality, rather than the actual football that he produces on a game-to-game basis. And for as much as I love Rayan Cherki's game, I also kind of grew a love for the guy as well too, because it makes me really sick hearing the way people have ripped this guy's character apart over the last few seasons. And a lot of it, I feel, is completely out of bounds. I feel a lot of it, if I'm being absolutely honest here, is often racially profiling the guy. Honestly, and like, you guys might be thinking, really, Lyes, like, are we really going here? But seriously, some of the stuff I've heard spoken about this guy is so, like, left field. It's so without context or without even, like, basis at times. I just think, like, I'm sorry, this actually cannot be journalism, or it cannot be analysis. It's coming from something else. Like, the amount of times I've heard Rayan Cherki described in the same vein as Hatem Ben Arfa or Adel Tarabt, simply because they're North African, is just bewildering. Like, how many times have you heard, Rayan Cherki, oh, he's got good feet, but we know what happened with Ben Arfa, or we know what happened to Tarabt. Like, oh, he's just going to end up being another streets won't forget player that can't work at a big club. He's got mentality issues. He's not disciplined. He doesn't work hard. He's lazy. We've heard all of that stuff hit at Rayan Cherki over the last few years. And the biggest one this past season was, well, if Rayan Cherki was that good, why doesn't anyone want to buy him? Why is he still at Lyon? Why is he available for 30 million euros? Well, there's a multitude of reasons for that, but more so than anything, I feel a bit vindicated here because I recognize this guy's talent, right? And I'm not trying to say I'm the only one that did, but I recognize this guy's talent, and everybody called me crazy. Everybody said he's never going to work out at a big club. Everyone said no one's ever going to take a chance on him. The greatest manager of the last 15 years just took a chance on him. So if that's who I'm in company with, I'll take it. I'll take it. If Pep Guardiola can recognize Cherki's talent and I can too, I'll take it. There you go. For all you people who've been just lambasting this guy for non-footballing reasons, Manchester City have just bought him. Manchester City have just taken a punt on the guy. And I think at 30 million euros, right, this is potentially one of the biggest bargains we have ever seen. It has the potential to certainly be that way. Right? It obviously highly kind of weighs on how he succeeds at the club. But if Rayan Cherki is everything we think he can be and lives up to that, this will go down as one of the greatest bargains in the history of football. I'm going to say it again. If Rayan Cherki is everything that we think he is and more, and lives up to his potential at Manchester City, this will go down as one of the greatest bargains in football history. Because a player of this natural technical ability, this gifted, this naturally talented, to get a player of that ilk for 30 million euros in this economy in 2025, I think it's a no-brainer. And personally, I think it's a deal that every single club in Europe should have been after, because there's no risk to this. There is absolutely no risk to this whatsoever. If Rayan Cherki flops at Man City, let's just play a hypothetical game here. If he flops at Man City, I'm sorry, you're able to write that off like nothing. It's 30 million euros. Who cares? How many teams make bad signings for 30 million euros, write it off, and it's on to the next? That's a snip in today's game. Honestly, I've seen so many bang average players go for 40 to 50 million pounds in the last 3, 4, 5 years that Cherki for 30 million is almost like the biggest no-brainer ever. If he flops, who cares? It's 30 mil. That's nothing in today's game. But on the flip side, if this guy succeeds, if Pep Guardiola can manage to basically translate his game to the next level, and we see Cherki's talent shine at this level, my goodness, you're signing potentially one of the best talents in world football for practically nothing. I cannot believe more teams around Europe went after this. And I know Liverpool were interested in the guy. I know Arne Slot went to have a meeting with him, but obviously I think their focus is on Florian Wirtz. Totally understandable, by the way. Wirtz is an amazing player. But teams like Bayern, teams like Real Madrid, teams like Barcelona, teams like Arsenal, anybody should have been after this kind of deal. 30 million for Rayan Cherki is a no-brainer. Now, let's talk about the player itself. And if this is the first time you're hearing me talk about him, welcome. If you've heard me talk about him, welcome back. I'm such a fan of this guy's game, but more so than a fan of his game, I'm a fan of what he represents. Like, a lot of people think I like Rayan Cherki just because like he's Algerian, or just because like, oh, he's Cherki. Like, yes, you're such a big fan of Cherki. You glaze him too much. No, yous are wrong. I'm a fan of Rayan Cherki, but more so than that, I'm a fan of genius in football. And this guy right here epitomizes to me what it means to be a footballing genius, a maverick, a guy that can just get on the ball. And no matter what kind of system you put in front of him, no matter what kind of organized deep block you put in front of him, no matter how many players you put in front of him, he has the footballing mind and the technical ability to boot, to almost single-handedly at times break down that defensive block. And I'm sorry, that's a skill, that's an attribute that only the great ones have. And you guys are going to call me crazy, but I don't care. That's something we talk about when we talk about the likes of Eden Hazard, when we talk about the likes of Neymar, the likes of Messi, the likes of Maradona, the likes of even Musiala at Bayern. I'm not saying he's as good as them, or he will end up being as good as them, but that trait, that ability to just give him a player the ball, no matter what's in front of them, and they don't have to rely on the system to help them. They don't have to rely on, oh, I need my overlapping fullback or my defensive midfielder or you just give them the ball, and they have the creative genius and the technical skill set to do it themselves. Almost give me the ball, get the hell out of the way, and let me get to work. I'll solve the problem. That's a skill set that only the real geniuses have. And I think Rayan Cherki possesses that level of genius, which is why I'm such a fan of his game. But more so than that, like I said, I'm a fan of what it represents, because Cherki is really an old school number 10. This is an ode to the Juan Roman Riquelmes, to the Aymars, to the number 10s that really captured and captivated audiences throughout the 2000s, throughout the 1990s. And I don't think players like that really kind of exist in today's footballing ecosystem, right? You really have kind of seen a death of that position, whether it's Ozil. I mean, Ozil towards the end, you could really see a position that he kind of made so infamous in the early 2010s. There really wasn't a place for him towards the end of the 2010s. Isco as well too. I mean, he's making a little remontada for Betis, but let's be honest, Isco at the start of the 2010s compared to what he is now, it is like he hasn't been able to thrive as much as he has maybe 10 years ago, or how much he would have 15 years ago. This kind of player doesn't really exist in the modern game. And I don't think I'm wrong to say that, right? Like, if anything, teams these days really tend to find creativity through a system, or through wide positions, or through, I don't know, 100 pass moves, rather than giving the ball to a creative number 10 and just asking them to be the focal point, the hub of that team's attack. You don't really see it too much. So in Cherki, he is an ode to the old school number 10, a guy that you can just kind of give the ball to in the final third and ask him to just problem solve. And when it comes to problem solving in the final third, very few are as able as Rayan Cherki. I describe him as a player that I think has mastered the final third. And he's done so because he's just such a complete attacker. Like, in terms of, and I say that from a technical point of view, right? He's a complete attacker from a technical point of view. there are very few players as two-footed and naturally two-footed. I'm not talking about, oh, he can take shots with his left. Like, he can play passes on his right just as well on his left. He can take set pieces just as well on his left as he can on his right. He is so two-footed. I think they call it ambipedal, that no matter what angle he's really playing at, he can find a pass, whether it's slotting it through, whether it's a dink over the top, whether it's a cross. What he kind of has everything in his arsenal available, and it's a huge asset to be two-footed. I don't want people to think, oh, it's just, it looks nice that he's two-footed. No, if you're two-footed, the amount of passes, the amount of angles you can play at, it ultimately it expands so much so that you can really do damage anywhere across the pitch. You can really do damage wherever you pick up the ball, and that's such a huge skill for Rayan Cherki. He's such a gifted passer, but also an imaginative passer as well too. He picks up the ball and he sees passes that maybe other players don't see. I mean, the perfect example for me is against Spain. That cameo right there, I think if you never saw Rayan Cherki play, was the perfect encapsulation of what Rayan Cherki can provide to a football pitch. Seriously, whether it was the trap with the right foot to then ultimately volley it first time with his left. We've seen him do that so many times in training. We saw him do that against Spain. Whether it was the delicate little dink to the far post to Kolo Muani for Spain, for France's fourth. But actually, my favorite part of that game from Rayan Cherki was actually his pass into Malo Gusto's path that ultimately forced the own goal for, I think it was Spain, or France's third. And it's just, honestly, first of all, he's so involved in that move, but then ultimately picks it up. And again, I think most players in the modern game today look to continue just shifting it on, play it sideways, maybe even play it backwards, maybe take the space, but he has the genius and again the awareness to know everything that's happening on the football pitch. And he spots Malo Gusto's run. In fact, it's really his pass that forces Malo Gusto's overlapping run into space to then find it. But I don't think there's many creative players these days that are even finding that pass, that are even thinking of playing that pass. And Cherki is really, again, innovative like that. He is really a problem solver. He's really a guy that you got to give creative license to. You can't shackle him. You can't ask him to just play a role in your team. You have to kind of give him the freedom to just be himself. And I think that's when you get the best version of Rayan Cherki. So look, I don't have to speak too much about this guy. I've spoken about him so many times at this point, but as you guys know, I'm a huge fan of him. That's without even talking about his dribbling, his close control, his feints. I think Rayan Cherki as well too is sneakily athletic. People look at him and he's not the biggest, he's not really the most explosive either, but he has this first of all, this balance to him. He kind of does hunch over at times and it's very difficult to shake him off the ball. But he does have a core strength to him that, again, it makes it very difficult to knock him off, even with how small of a player he is. He isn't easy to shake off. He can get a yard off on you. It's not like Jadon Sancho, for example, when he came to the Premier League, you saw he can't even beat his fullback. Rayan Cherki can beat his fullback. He can leave his man in the dust and get that yard of space that he needs to ultimately play that pass. He can finish off chances. He can strike from distance. He can take free kicks. He's really just a technical wizard. So make no mistake about it. When it comes to Rayan Cherki, I think I've made it very clear in this video if you didn't know already. I'm a huge fan. I'm honestly a massive fan of this guy. Now, let's talk about the move to Manchester City, because ultimately, this is what it comes down to. And if anything, it's actually interesting, right? Because of all people, I'm actually the one that took a little bit of stick for my analysis on Cherki over the last 2 weeks. I'm going to show you guys my clip on Sky Sports that a lot of Manchester City fans saw. And let's just say a lot of them weren't happy. But I want to preface whatever you're about to see by saying, first of all, I was on live, like this was being filmed live. And at times you say stuff on live that you can't take back, right? You just gotta say whatever on your mind. You're not really preparing for it. You're just kind of just speaking freely. So there are some things in this video you're about to see that I want to kind of like amend. I want to, with hindsight and also with thinking more about it, I want to not change, right? Because I still stand by a lot of what I said, but maybe rephrase, because I do think sometimes my language wasn't the best that I could be, but also explain what I was saying, because you see a minute and a half clip and you can only really get so much of a story. I think Cherki is the biggest market opportunity in the window. For that price and for that talent, it's an absolute no-brainer, because this is one of the most talented players in world football. And as a playmaker in the final third, I think he's practically mastered the final third. He knows every single pass he needs to make. He knows how to beat any single player he needs to. He's ambipedal as well too. He can play with his right, can play with his left. So this is a guy that can unlock defenses at will. The reason I'm cautious. Okay, so everything I just said, it's practically mimicking what I just said. My thoughts on Cherki are consistent. They're very clear. I'm a huge believer in this guy. This next part is where I think a lot of people listened to it and immediately kind of got annoyed, right? And I can understand why, but also let me explain kind of my thought process behind this. This is about City for him is because, and I've watched Cherki over the last 4 years. I know this guy's game. The guy doesn't defend. Like, he is an old school playmaker in the truest sense. Like,
He's a guy that you give complete creative license to. He kind of sits in that little pocket in the right half space. You give him the ball and you let him get to work. But then when you lose the ball, he's not the hardest worker. So when you look at a guy like Kevin,
Okay, so this first and foremost, again, I talk about nasty narratives. I don't like everything being spoken about on Ryan Cherki's character or his mentality or he's a bad egg. I really despise hearing that. But there are also criticisms of Ryan Cherki, right? He isn't a perfect player. If he was a perfect player, guys, he'd be going for 200 million. We'd be calling him the next Messi. He does have holes in his game, right? No player is perfect. Every player has strengths. Every player has weaknesses. I say this all the time. And it's really up to the coach and his system to maximize the strengths, minimize the weaknesses. Ryan Cherki, one of his weaknesses is his out of possession work. He is not the hardest worker off the ball. Right? If you've watched Ryan Cherki before, that's the first thing that kind of jumps off the screen if you are looking for negatives. Out of possession, dare I say it, and I'm going to sound really harsh here, but I'm sorry, as much as I love the guy, it's true. He can be accused of being a cone, of being a traffic cone. Like, he isn't a great out of possession player. But because at Lyon especially, he's so brilliant on the ball and offensively, you kind of live with that because you know what he can do for you going forward. So Lyon have built a team around him basically that when Lyon lose the ball, just be kind of like the first line of press. Make sure that you're kind of like following the pressing structure, but you're not expecting Ryan Cherki to chase back. You're not expecting Ryan Cherki to really be up in defenders' faces, winning tackles. That's not his game whatsoever. So Lyon did a really good job of building a team that protects Ryan Cherki out of possession. That, first and foremost, is really the truth. You look at all his if you want to go on FB ref, right? If you're a stats head, he ranks very, very low in almost every single defensive metric. That is not incorrect. What I just said right there is not false. That's the facts. And when I said that on the show, I think they mentioned Kevin De Bruyne also, like, oh, he's kind of like a maverick as well too, and Pep kind of gave him some liberties. This is my response to that.
Kevin De Bruyne, his industry is also a reason why, as well as, of course, his efficiency, why he's given that free role at City.
So the difference between him and Kevin De Bruyne, right? As again, Kevin De Bruyne is also a guy, in my opinion, that mastered the final third. He can play every single pass in the book. He's been City's go-to creator, and he's one of those players that under Pep kind of just tells him, do what you need to do. Get to work. Like, everybody else has a role in this team. Everybody else has to kind of fit the needs of the system. But Kev, you're the guy that we give the ball to, and you just be you, right? The difference is, I think De Bruyne is a much more mobile player, both in and out of possession, than Cherki. First and foremost, he's a far better athlete. That is not even up for debate in terms of carrying the ball, in terms of running off the ball. De Bruyne at his best is a much better athlete than Ryan Cherki, that's not his best quality, right? And on top of that, Kevin De Bruyne was a player that at Manchester City proved through his output and his performances that he deserved to be the creator-in-chief, that he deserved to kind of have free reign under Pep to do everything he wanted to. He earned that because, quite simply, you look at the numbers he puts up every single year. He's putting up 20-plus assists, big goals in big games every single season. It's similar to Messi, for example. Towards the end at Barcelona, Messi's a player that out of possession is a traffic cone, right? No one will ever say Messi's a great defender. Maybe in his early years he was. But because with Messi, you know he's so effective and he's going to guarantee you practically a goal and an assist every single game. You live and die by that because of what Messi brings you. So with Cherki, at Lyon, he was that version for them. But at Man City, is Pep going to look at Rayan Cherki amongst the multitude of attacking talent that he has and say, okay, Ryan, I don't care how bad defensively you are, it won't matter to me because we're going to build the entire unit to kind of mask your defensive flaws. For that to happen, Rayan Cherki really has to showcase that, okay, everything that I've done in my career up to this point, I can do for you as well too. I can be that guy that is basically leading every single creative chart in the Premier League. I'm going to be the creator-in-chief for Manchester City. I'm going to be basically giving you an assist or a goal or damn near both every single game. That's probably what he's going to have to do for Pep.
For Cherki, I just don't think Man City under Pep is the move for him. Like, if anything, this guy's, in my opinion, the anti-Pep player.
That right there rubbed a lot of City fans the wrong way. What do I mean when I say Cherki is the anti-Pep player? Because honestly, that's probably what rubbed people the wrong way the most out of everything I've said here. A lot of people heard that and said, oh, this is such a lazy narrative and it's driven by the fact that Grealish didn't really succeed at Manchester City. Okay, let me say this, right? I definitely agree that there's a false, lazy narrative being spread around Pep Guardiola. And it's that Pep Guardiola doesn't like technical players. And if you've been watching football as long as I have, or even if you haven't, even if you started watching football the year Pep took over, saying something like that 10 years ago, you would have been laughed out of every single room in the world. Because let's think back to Pep's original Barcelona team. Iniesta, Xavi, Lionel Messi, Pedro, David Villa, Fabregas. Like Pep at one point wanted to build a team that didn't play with a striker. Like he wanted his team to basically be as many midfielders on the pitch as possible. At Bayern as well too. Early days at Manchester City. Pep loves technical footballers. In fact, I don't think anyone loves technical footballers more than Pep Guardiola. So this idea that, oh, if you're like a technical footballer, Pep's not going to love you as much, that's baloney. Seriously, I don't know where that argument has come from. And the whole thing about Grealish, right? I'm someone that, after it took me a year of Grealish, the first season of Grealish, for me to really think, I don't think this guy will ever really light it up at City. And I know he won the treble as a big part of that team the following season, but let's be real, he became a cog of the machine. You never really saw the best version of Jack Grealish. And the reality of that as well too is, was Jack Grealish ever really good enough to be the guy at City? I don't think he was, right? For example, I think Cherki's a more talented player than Jack Grealish. As much as I like Jack Grealish, let's be real. You're asking Jack Grealish to have the same creative freedom he did at Villa, at Man City. It was never going to happen. So it's not because of Grealish, but I'm going to, again, go back to a point I made earlier in this video. Cherki, for me, is a player that has shown he's at his best when he kind of has the freedom to be the creative hub of the team. And everything around him is kind of based on giving him that license. Like, we're going to defend for you. We're going to have a base for you. We're going to give you the freedom to do what you kind of want. You're going to have the license to get on the ball as much as you want, get to work, drift right, drift left. And I do think under Pep, as much as he likes technical footballers, I do think throughout his career, though, as well, guys, and I don't think what I'm about to say is wrong, he still likes players to kind of exist in the constraints of his system. So I look at a player like Riyad Mahrez, right? Mahrez is, again, similar to Cherki, a maverick, a guy that at Leicester City was a player that you gave the ball to and he could just unlock defenses. He was the best player in the Premier League in the biggest miracle in probably sports history. And at Manchester City, like most players, by the way, because this is something you can never accuse Pep of, his numbers consistently went up. Almost every single attacking player playing under Pep see their numbers increase. They score more goals, they assist more goals. Mahrez was similar. But, and if we're being real here, this is true. Mahrez at Manchester City was a much different player to the one he was at Leicester. He was a player that under City kind of had to learn a role in the team. In fact, that's why for so many attacking players under Pep, the first year is an adaptation year because they have to adapt to what Pep's system needs. Mahrez all of a sudden becomes a player who's touching the ball a whole lot less over 90 minutes compared to at Leicester. He's a player that when he gets the ball isn't really being given the license to just go forward whenever he wants. Like there are times where he has to go backwards, he has to go sideways because that's the way Pep's system kind of dictates. It is more of a slow build up to it. And although his numbers were a lot better, I think Mahrez from an individual point of view wasn't as, I don't want to say good because he was a match winner at City. He was a huge player for them. But he was more of an individual at Leicester compared to at Man City, where he just became a brilliant cog, but albeit a cog of the system. And for most Pep attackers, that's what you end up becoming. Again, there are a few exceptions, right? Messi was, you could do everything outside of the system. He's one of those players that Pep just says, you know what, Messi, go be great. Go do what you need to do. De Bruyne, similar. Foden, he kind of gave him that role 2 years ago when he won Player of the Year. But for the most part, Pep attackers really aren't given that kind of freedom. A player I'm going to compare to Cherki right now is Cole Palmer. And I'm not saying Cole Palmer because, oh, at City, he was a bit part player and at Chelsea he's this. No, he was a young player at City and he never really got a chance, to be honest with you. And look at the names in front of him. But if you look at what Cole Palmer was at City to then moving to Chelsea, where all of a sudden he kind of got given full creative freedom and he basically got given the keys to Chelsea's attack. Everything that Chelsea do goes through Cole Palmer. That for me is kind of the move when I envisioned what Cherki's next move would be. What I envisioned for Cherki, a team that gave Cherki similar attacking freedom like Chelsea did for Cole Palmer. And I ask you guys this, even if Cole Palmer was to come back to City tonight, do we think Cole Palmer would have the same role at City as he does at Chelsea? Personally, I don't really think so. And that's not a bad thing. He would become, again, a cog to the City system. And he'd be a great player in that system, but you wouldn't see the Cole Palmer we're seeing at Chelsea now at Manchester City. And that is a little bit my fear with Cherki, right? Cherki is a player that you have to just give full license to. And at City, I'm not sure you're going to get that. I'm not, like, people are telling me Pep is going, this year, he's definitely going under a tactical evolution. And in part, I actually believe that because you don't sign a player like Ait Nouri, you don't sign a player like Reinders, and you don't sign a player like Cherki if you're going to play the way City did last year. I'm sorry, you have to adapt to get the best out of those guys. But I'm going to give you guys an example, right? How many times do you see Erling Haaland make a run in behind? How many times do you guys see Erling Haaland make that darting run in behind the center forwards, asking for the ball to be played to him? I would probably hazard 12 times a game. Genuinely, Haaland makes that run every 10 minutes. He makes it so much. Now, let me ask you guys this. How many times do Man City players look up, see Haaland making that run, and actually play him that ball. Very rarely, guys. And in fact, it's part of the reason why I actually feel bad for Haaland. Bar Kevin De Bruyne, I feel like this season we've seen so many times Bernardo pick up the ball, look up, see Haaland make a run and pass sideways. Gundogan pick up the ball, look up, see Haaland make a run and pass sideways. So, like Foden, look up, see Haaland pass sideways. No one ever finds his runs, bar Kevin De Bruyne. And I ask you guys, is that due to player quality or is that due to instruction? I think it's due to instruction because even in the FA Cup final, I saw Claudio Echeverri come on for Manchester City. And similar, within 5 minutes, the guy must have made 15 off the ball runs into really dangerous pockets that a risky pass could have kind of found them in. But I think due to the way City play, that pass rarely gets played. It's kind of almost discouraged at times unless you're Kevin De Bruyne, who he always finds that pass. So when Cherki comes to Man City, will Pep look at him similar to De Bruyne and say, I want you playing those passes. I want you playing those incisive killer balls. I want you playing those risky passes that you might lose 6 out of 10 times, but those other 3-4 times, you're going to create an opportunity for us. I don't know if he's going to do that. My hope for Cherki, right? Because at the end of the day, I want Cherki to succeed. Even if he's joined Man City, I want Rayan Cherki to be the best player possible at Manchester City because I care more about his development and what kind of player he becomes than rivalry between Man United and Man City. It's similar to Mahrez. I was rooting for Mahrez at Man City. I wasn't rooting for Man City, but I rooted for Mahrez. So my hope for Cherki is that Pep Guardiola, the reason he's signing him is because he identifies what kind of player he has. And he recognizes the potential damage this guy could do in the Premier League. And when he does come to Man City, I hope Pep Guardiola kind of gives him this freedom that I continue describing. Because if this is going to be just a case that he puts Rayan Cherki on the right, and Rayan Cherki becomes a player that when he picks up the ball, I don't know, those killer passes that he was attempting at Lyon, that flair that he was showing at Lyon, that individualism he was showing at Lyon, we kind of see tempered a little bit. I think it's going to be a damn shame, and I think it will impact Cherki's game. I think Cherki, to get the best out of him, you have to play him in a certain way. And I would assume, because Pep Guardiola, at the end of the day, he's a much smarter guy than I am, right? He knows more about football than I can ever hope to know about. And I hope with Cherki, he kind of gives him that freedom. But if we're being honest as well too, I have seen in the past Guardiola look at these kinds of maverick figures and kind of put them in a box at times. And I'm not even talking about Grealish because, like I said, Grealish for me is not even on Cherki's technical level. I'll tell you guys an example. I'll never forget when Zlatan came to Barcelona. And Zlatan is one of the biggest enigmas at center forward that we've ever seen. A guy of that height with that technical skill set and that like individualism. Like he's kind of a guy that you give the ball and just let Zlatan be Zlatan. Well, when Zlatan went to Barcelona, Pep tried using him basically as like a target man. Just pump the ball up to Zlatan, hold it off, and let Messi play off you. And it just wasn't Zlatan's game. Like, Zlatan is a player you have to let be Zlatan. I'm going to give you guys another example. And again, some people might not like it, but let's look at Matheus Nunes. Again, a player I don't think is as talented as Cherki, but let's also not forget what Nunes was before he joined Manchester City. At Wolves and at Sporting beforehand, he was seen as one of the best ball-carrying midfielders in Europe. A guy that you can give the ball to, and again, he can kind of just break defenses up simply by the way he dribbles and carries the ball forward. The first season, he barely played, and then halfway through this year, Pep ended up playing him at right back, and literally came out and said, Nunes is not smart enough to play midfield for me. So this myth that Pep doesn't like technical footballers, it's exactly that. It's a myth. But does Pep love individuals that kind of make it all about them? I don't think he loves that either as well too. And I am a little worried for Cherki in that regard. Now, was I right to call him the anti-Pep player? No. I think that's an over-exaggeration. That's a bit like a name that people are going to think of. That's harsh to say. Because for all I know, Cherki could be unbelievable for Man City. And the next thing I'm about to say as well too, I do regret saying it. Let's continue watching the video.
I would not see him succeeding at City in that regard unless you see drastic changes to his physical side of the game, his athletic side to the game, and the defensive side of the game as well.
That's another thing as well too, right? Pep offers very few players in his team the license to kind of just not work that hard on the defensive side of the game, right? Even like you look at that Barcelona team, they were all technical wizards. But what made that Barcelona team as well so special is that off the ball, they're like a swarm of wasps. They lose the ball and they all swarm towards the ball. Their work rate off the ball is almost as good as their quality on the ball. They win the ball back within 3 seconds. And even Messi at one point was like that. But if we're going to look at players that throughout Pep's tenure have basically been told you don't have to like really focus on the defensive side of the game, you can probably count them on one hand. Even at Man City, these guys are defensive workhorses, man, when they lose the ball. Look at a player like Bernardo Silva. Again, similar in stature to Cherki, but the guy is one of the best workhorses in Europe. Honestly, he's so industrious. Cherki isn't really that kind of player. And when I look now at Man City, Haaland over the last 2 years hasn't been the best presser up front. I think the numbers suggest that. The eye test kind of suggests that as well too. Cherki is not a great presser off the ball either. And then I look throughout the team as well too. Reinders is not the best defensive player in midfield. Like, can he win his tackles 100%? But he's not the best defensive-minded player from midfield that we have in Europe. He's an amazing player, and I actually look at him as maybe a Gundogan Lay. He's a player that I recommended for Manchester City 6 months ago. I think he's going to be an amazing signing. But again, not the best out-of-possession player. Ait Nouri, another player that Man City are on the cusp of signing. Again, a player I know very, very well. I think Ait Nouri has been the best performer for the Algerian national team over the last 3-4 years. The guy is an optional defender in terms of he loses focus defensively so many times. He's brilliant going forward, but not the best player going back. That's my opinion. And then you look at Manchester City over the past season, how open they've been in midfield in particular, from a defensive point of view, from a legs point of view. These are question marks that I look at Manchester City going to this next season and say, how is Pep going to amend for this? How is Pep going to kind of work on this? Because if you have so many players that, I don't want to call them defensive liabilities, but they're not the best out of possession players, how will Pep accommodate for that? Because like I said, a manager's job is to get the best out of his players and minimize their flaws. What way is Pep going to accommodate for this? Are we going to kind of see a return to 2017-18 Pep, 2017-18 City, where they're scoring over 100 goals a season, but defensively, maybe they're a little bit suspect. Maybe in Europe it hurts them, but in the Premier League, they're amazing. That remains to be seen, but that's one thing with Cherki. I think for him to really succeed at City as well too, his effort levels off the ball will have to improve. No doubt about it.
But you don't think if, say, like they buy Reinders this summer as well, who is that industrious player?
I don't think Reinders is a super industrious midfielder. That's just my opinion.
And also can contribute in the final third. I guess the thing with City, I feel like Pep hasn't been in this position with City yet. And, you know, with the end, you know, in a couple of years probably for him at City, I feel like maybe he's just going to have one final throw of the dice and just.
I think it's
like,
a risk because
let's have a.
You look at Haaland; he's not a great presser. Haaland is not the best presser up front. You look at Cherki, not the best defensive-minded player either. Like, where does Foden kind of fit into all of this? I just think for Cherki, if him and his entourage are smart, I'm looking at the club that can kind of find the best situation for him. Who can maximize the best of Rayan Cherki?
And that goes back to my point about, like, you see the situation Cole Palmer's kind of in at Chelsea. That's kind of what I would have liked to see Cherki do with his next move. However, if we're also being honest, right, and me saying his entourage should pick the right move, that's probably out of pocket for me because they know better than me what their client needs, or at least I would hope so, right? But at the same time, right, no one is saying no to Pep Guardiola. This is the best manager, maybe of all time, but certainly of the modern game. Manchester City are one of the best teams in Europe over the last 10, 15 years. It's a huge club. It's a club that's going to massively improve him financially as well, too. And it's a club where he's going to be playing with the best players, technical footballers in world football. This is going to elevate Cherki's game one way or another. So there's no way to say he's made the wrong decision, right? This is going to massively improve Rayan Cherki. But I just kind of thought maybe a move similar to like when Chelsea bought Cole Palmer and kind of gave him that kind of role. That's what I would have liked to see next for Cherki.
Cherki's skill set. And I'm not honestly sure if that's Man City. I'm not sure who that is, but I'm not sure at this current point that's Man City.
Yeah. So again, what do I kind of take back? I shouldn't have said he's the anti-Pep player. That's dramatic for me, and it's probably unfair. The second thing I shouldn't have said is I would not see him succeeding at City, because that's almost like a definite statement. That means I give Cherki zero chance to succeed at Man City. That's not true. And I don't believe that. There is a way for Cherki to succeed at Man City, and if he does, I'm not going to be massively surprised by it. But what I will say, I think Pep Guardiola will need to accommodate for this player. He is going to have to shift things around to get the best out of Rayan Cherki. On the flip side, Rayan Cherki will also have to adapt and accommodate to work in this Man City team. And I think it's like you can say every player needs to do that, but I think for Cherki, more so than anything, he and Pep will have to work very hard to make this marriage work. And I think if it does, then you could be looking, like I said, at one of the best bargains in football history. But let me tell you guys this as well too, right? Pep knows good footballers. Pep knows geniuses out in football. He's worked in this game for 15 years and managed the best players in the world. And there is every chance as well too, guys, that within the first 3 to 4 training sessions, Pep identifies that this guy, Rayan Cherki, is a player worth kind of making accommodations for. He might stand out that much in the first 4 training sessions. Like, he might be that much head and shoulders above everybody else that Pep looks at him and says, look, we're not dealing with any other player here. This is not a Matheus Nunes. This is not a Jack Grealish. This is a guy that is capable of making the difference for me game in, game out. And he does give him that creative freedom. That remains to be seen. But to kind of close all of this off, Manchester City are signing one of the most mercurial young talents in world football. One of the most technically gifted players in the game, and a player who doesn't have a ceiling. The sky is the limit for this guy. And if he really achieves what we think he can at Manchester City, the whole league has to be on notice. I said it to Cam. Football is being saved by players of Cherki's ilk. the Yamals, the Cherkis, the Doués, these creative individuals that just exude class. Football is being saved, but everybody else in the Premier League is in danger if this guy actually accomplishes what he can. Because my goodness, the amount of players that you can say have the technical skill set of Rayan Cherki, the natural ability of Rayan Cherki, I think you can seriously name on one hand. I think he's that damn gifted. So, me personally, I'm absolutely gutted. However, I will say this again. I am rooting for Rayan Cherki. And for everybody that's saying to me, like people who don't know me but have seen this clip and are telling me, stay on that side. Stay on that side. Brother, I am the side. I damn near created the side. I've been watching Rayan Cherki. I've known about Rayan Cherki probably before you were even conscious of the fact that he was a player. I've been watching him all season. This is a player that he got on your wavelength when you saw he was linked to your club. Please don't talk about stay on that side. No one has been more on Rayan Cherki's side than I have throughout his career. And no one will be rooting for him to succeed more at Manchester City than me. So less of stay on that side. Please. Understand how much I have valued this guy in football. I genuinely challenge you to name 5 people, whether they're on the internet, analysts, pundits, that have rode out for Rayan Cherki as much as me. So Rayan Cherki, good luck at Manchester City. But just know you've broken my heart today, man. I'm gutted, man. I'm gutted, man. Man City, 30 million. I'm gutted.